Morning, everyone. This is Bill Kessler, your President and CEO of Central 21 Affiliated. Welcome to the webinar. You heard the introduction by Carrie Pearson, our IT person, and then we both pushed the mute button at the same time, which resulted in my remuting myself. So what I was saying to everybody, and I'm very happy you're all here, is that a few housekeeping things as far as any webinar. One, today we'll go from between 20 and 40 minutes, depending on how many questions we have, how much feedback we have. All of you, I not only encourage, I ask you to make this a dialogue, not a monologue, and to get your input either by verbal or by typing in the chat room. The whole series of agent-driven webinars that we started this year is because we have so many different points of light within the company with various pieces of knowledge and various ways of doing the same thing. We've often said that real estate, as to who is a successful realtor, what is a successful company, how do we look at success, is a wide river, not a narrow stream. And we all have different ways of approaching situations. Today's situation is, how do you get somebody to say yes without beating them on the head with a hammer? How do you close a transaction, be it a real estate transaction or something for your kid or your spouse or whatever? And I'm very delighted that we have attendees here from small cities in Wisconsin and downtown Chicago and everything in between. And it doesn't matter because there are certain things that are universal to human nature, and one of them is interaction and how people make decisions. So with that, we'll start talking a little bit about my concepts, my theories over the years, which I have purloined, stolen, borrowed, cheated, taken from a variety of people, Tommy Hopkins, Mike Ferry, and everybody in the last 20 years. And it sort of made it into what works for me in terms of how to accomplish or attempt to accomplish my end result, which is a solution, a closing. And in this particular webinar, we will do it in regards to, of course, a real estate transaction. Fair enough? All right, let's start. So a closing. A closing is an end result. And we tend to think, all of us, in linear terms, in boxes, and that it is an exact point. It really is more of a process that leads to a conclusion. And if you will, it's a series of appointments and commitments that are leading to an execution of a contract or of an action. And along the way, there is the tipping point, the point of no return, where you just know, if you have good common sense, and we all do, and good insight into human nature, which we all have and need to use, that people are locked in, and then now it's a matter of not losing them. So we will go through this whole process. There are certain a lot of people have said, well, what is a successful realtor? What causes somebody to be successful? Because all of us know, as we look around, we certainly come in all different shapes, sizes, ages, parent skill sets, education backgrounds, whatever. And there are certain things, though, that really we do have in common. One is listening skills. So by listening skills, we'll go back and talk about what that means. Open-ended questions, shut up. Subordination of self. Yes, many successful realtors are very egotistical, but they aren't particularly egoistical. We'll talk about the difference. Scripting, whether they have actually processed it internally or not. Most successful agents say the same things in the same situations and have little ways of keeping themselves on track, whether they use a Mike Ferry script or something they just have repeated over the years. Desire to win, to achieve. That's not to have victory and kill. Often it's a win-win. It's just a desire to accomplish the task and feel good at the end of the day. And the last one is probably the toughest of all, which is attempting to stay emotionally detached from the outcome. So let's go a little bit into detail of these 5 items. So listening skills. Listening skills does not mean you need to shut up all the time. It doesn't mean that you need to simply not present anything. What it means is hearing the answer. Most of us, especially in first contact people, seem to concentrate on the wrong thing being how the other is perceiving us. So we are worried about what we're going to say next, how we look, how we come across, rather than actually listening to the tone, the words, the whole concept that the other person has given us, be it a buyer in an open house, be it the REO third-party person from Alabama, whoever it is. And the 2 key elements of listening, in my mind at least, are open-ended questions and shut up. Open-ended questions. What is an open-ended question? An open-ended question is one that cannot be answered with a yes or a no. Basically, it's who, how, why, where, what. Or tell me about it. Or, as an example, instead of saying, are you looking for a 3-bedroom house? A better question is, well, tell me about what you are looking for in a home. We do not want to pigeonhole, to channel people's answers based on what we perceive, some checklist of what we need to know. We need to find out what their process is. And as we go through these, you'll see the more that we allow somebody else to express themselves, the more brilliant they think we are, and the more they like us, because we're allowing them to talk about themselves, the most important thing in the world. The second thing, of course, is shut up. Many of us have, certainly including myself, have to fight the challenge of finishing someone's sentence, interrupting them, saying that's not what I mean. It's a difficult task for us type A people to allow the speaker to continue with the thought, especially if they appear to be somewhat repetitious. There are very few situations where the speaker really gives us permission to interrupt them. So that is a skill set we all need to work on in our listening skills. So at the end of the day, you hear these answers and you attempt to pick up key concepts. I don't at all recommend writing down notes, because then you're focusing on the notes rather than on listening. The only time to write notes is if you put it into repertoire to show how important what they're saying is, and that you're really critically listening, and so on and so forth. I think it's more important just to get a feel of where these people are coming from. Subordination of self. When you're working with a buyer or a seller, or perhaps anybody else, the more we can put our own needs in the background and talk about their needs and their desires and their qualifications, the better relationship we're going to have, because again, people are talking about the most important thing in life, themselves. As I said earlier, many realtors are very egotistical. They think they can conquer any mountain, that they know all the answers, whatever, and so confidence is a very important thing. However, those same people often do focus on the consumer, the customer, so through listening skills, so they can help get them to yes. And sometimes when we go out on a listing presentation or something of that nature, we spend hours preparing our market analysis or our nice brochure saying what a wonderful company, office, agent we are. And really, it's all fluff. What they really want to know is this somebody that they could feel comfortable working with, someone that they trust, that they have a comfort level with on communication, that they feel has at least something in common with themselves. I'll get to that, the process, in a minute. The skill set that most of us have for doing these listening skills and subordinating of self is scripting, asking the open-ended questions. And many of us have developed a process, depending on what it is we're doing, of questions. When I'm in an interview with someone who's thinking of transferring real estate companies or getting into real estate as a career or something of that nature, a career session, the first question I usually ask them is, tell me about yourself. And what is wrong with something like that with a buyer or seller? Well, tell me why you are looking to buy a home. And please tell me why you stopped by this open house. What attracted you to this property? Or on the internet, that's great that you inquired on this particular property. Could you tell me what interested you in this property? And if you have a series of questions, 3, 4, 5, and in further webinars, we'll go over those questions. It helps you stay on track and move you from the grand, broad questions to more narrow ones. The rest of scripting is it comes later in the day in terms of the process, but we'll talk about a little bit now. And that is, there are 27 different distinct ways of closing a person. The 3 that are used the most and are the most powerful, in my opinion, are the assumptive, the takeaway, and the trial. So what are these? The assumptive close. It had happened to me yesterday. I actually answered the phone, and of course it was a telemarketer wanted to know if I wanted new windows for the house. Well, they wisely were following the scripts. They didn't ask me if I wanted new windows. And the person said in an assumptive manner, when you will be replacing windows, would you replace all of them? Assumptive that we need to replace windows. So, assumptive close in our situation would be when I start marketing your home, would it be better to do it this weekend or next weekend? And tied into that assumptive close is the last one, which is the trial close. By taking out the assumption with the people, we're seeing what the reaction is, which is the trial. Another little trial close is to ask them to fill out some information, and you hand them the pen. And if they take the pen and start writing, that is a successful trial close. Doesn't even matter what they're writing. It could be a recipe for something. But now they have interacted with you and have given you a little commitment. The ultimate historic trial close is you get in the open house and you ask them to sign the guest register. The last close we want to talk about is the takeaway close. The takeaway close is helping the buyer or seller or any party understand that if they don't act in a certain way, that they may not have the opportunity to act in the future. There's nothing more powerful in convincing somebody they need something than showing them that somebody else wants it. Because if somebody else wants it, then it must have value. And if somebody else wants it, it just confirms their decision that, oh, they want it too. So be it another showing coming up, if a buyer says it's the 3rd time they looked at a property and you don't have another offer, you say, well, I do know there's 2 showings set up, or I know there's an open house coming up this weekend, and or something of that nature. And of course, another takeaway close is the interest rate factor, or the fact that now the shortage of inventory out there. If you're going to list your property, now is a good time to do that because you're not sure what's going to happen with inventory in a few months or interest rates in a few months. But right now, so assumptive, takeaway, trial. Desire to win, to achieve, trumping need to be liked. I suspect on some level all of us want to be liked by everybody. And when people enter real estate, they often, and when I ask them the question, why you consider real estate as a career, it's because they say, well, I like people and I like houses. And my answer usually is, well, you'll get over both of them very quickly. It is important and critical in life to achieve, because you are going to be remembered by your results, not necessarily by whether you got a nice smile. If you have a nice smile and they like you, that's nothing more than a plus, because people do like to work with people they like. However, the bottom line is, did you accomplish the goal? Accomplish the goal of finding them a home, accomplish the goal of selling their house, accomplish the goal of getting the credit repaired so they can buy a house, whatever the goal is. And due to that, we are more successful in doing that if we have a desire to achieve, desire to win, desire to cause a win-win is the best of all, where we win, where we get a commission, they win, they get the home they want, or the home sold at a price they can handle. And putting, like, quote unquote, being liked secondary. Emotionally detached from the outcome. And we all know the old phrase that a person who is his own attorney has a fool for an attorney, fool for a client. We all know that when we go to sell our own properties, that we often overprice them because we think because of a realtor we can get a few more bucks for them than everybody else. When we go to prepare our properties for sale, it's difficult for us to stage them because we cannot see the clutter, the whatever that we've built up over the years, because we're emotionally attached to it. We know it's far easier to give advice for raising somebody else's children than applying the same advice to our own. The more we are emotionally detached,
We have a question.
the better off we are. We have a question.
Maybe wants to know, how do you avoid the drama that some clients want to bring to the meeting transaction?
How do you avoid the drama? Well, that's right on what we're talking about, which is emotionally detached from the outcome. First of all, we do need to allow the client to vent. So part of drama is caused by the person who's causing the drama feeling that nobody is hearing them. Another reason that drama may be occurring is because of fear of commitment, fear of decisiveness, fear of the unknown, and by causing chaos, then indecision roams, and nothing has to be made. I don't know of any way to totally avoid drama, but I do know of many techniques to control the drama and to channel it in a positive way. And they start with many of the things we just talked about now, which is listening skills, a subordination of self, scripting, and if you take a particular drama that someone might bring up, such as an inspection, or that the interest rate changed, then the open-ended question could be something like, yes, this is what we have. Let's talk about how that affects everybody. So how do you think this affects you and the transaction? Let them vent, let them talk, da-da-da-da-da-da. And it's almost like letting the hot air out of the balloon. It has to happen. If you attempt to close it off or to shut it off without at least a partial escape mechanism, it'll always be there. Does that help? Okay, any more questions for now? I welcome any and all. Emotionally detached from the outcome. So that's part of the drama. All of you who know me well, which is about half the people on this call, know that I really truly believe in candor and getting to the point, whereas the other person may belabor and talk forever and create this drama and be indecisive. I think it's really, really critical, in my mind at least, because life is so short, to cut through it all if you can and just have a candorous statement. If the seller has all the drama of that it wasn't their fault that they lost their job, it wasn't their fault that the lender gave them the money for the second mortgage, if it's not their fault that the union no longer exists, whatever the issue is that causes them to be selling the house as a short sale, we need to do our best to A, listen, extend empathy, and then move on with candor as to what the situation is. And one line, of course, situations like that when you have bad news for the seller is, unfortunately, the buyer doesn't care. I do, but the buyer doesn't, and I cannot control the buyer. And were you the buyer, you wouldn't care either. And the last part of the emotionally detached outcome, in addition to the candor, is the walkaway, which is that even if you have no other business going on, you're better off with no business than with a bad news buyer or seller. If you cannot get them through the drama, if you cannot get them to commit, if you cannot get them to get pre-qualified, to commit the house, whatever it is you need to do to cause a transaction, you're better off walking away. It's kind of like if you're dating or whatever, and you have a miserable relationship, but it's better than no relationship. You'll never find a good relationship as long as you're in the miserable one. So you'll have difficulty finding a better buyer or a better seller to work with if you waste your time on a bad one, because they'll be sucking up all your energy, all your juices, all of your emotions. So those are the two things that I mean about being emotionally detached from the outcome. Candor, which means that they may not like you or what you're saying, but gets the point. And walk away, which is, it's not going to work, move on. Any other critical personal tools that anybody would like to add to that list? I know there are many, but these are just happen to be my top 5. The process. Establish rapport, ascertain needs, ask clarifying questions, play back what you observe for accuracy, ask for small commitment, qualify, sell, ask for major commitment, cause decisions, address remorse, manage details, overcome obstacles, collect commission, put a part of it into the bank for your taxes. Simple, right? It really is. A couple of thoughts. One is that the quicker you get somebody to say yes on a contract, my history has been, the more difficult the post accepted offer process is going to be. And the more difficult it is to get to the accepted offer, the easier the post acceptance process will be. So you're going to get nailed one way or the other, and you're going to get a pass one way or the other. Let's go through the whole process of how do you work with people, how do you get commitments from them and them to you. Establish rapport. Whatever study you want to show, it's clear that people want to work with people they know and or trust and or respect and or think get them the result they want. So somehow we need to get to that point. And we do it through the critical personal skills we got above. It starts with rapport. The open house, the telephone call, starts with, hi, I'm Bill Kessler, and you are? And how'd you happen to stop by the open house today? How'd you happen to call on this property today? That's great that you're here. I appreciate that. Where are you in the buying process? Or thank you for talking to me about the selling of your home. Could you just share with me what got you to make the call today? Get them to talk about themselves. And yes, some people will talk too much, and some people won't talk at all. It's our job to find the happy medium. Ascertain needs. So in life we have needs and wants. Wants are all the wonderful things of life. Needs are the things you absolutely have to have. So what do they absolutely need to have at this time in order to accomplish a transaction? Ask clarifying questions. A clarifying question really is, it falls into the next one, which is play back what you absorb for accuracy. It's to repeat back in their words, if you can, or not, then in your words, what you think you heard. And if they say they want a comfortable home, then you have to ask them, of course, the opening question, well, could you help me understand what you mean by comfortable? Or they want a good-sized kitchen, great. So tell me what you mean by a good-sized kitchen. Or they mean that they want something traditional, well, help me describe what you mean by traditional. And if they have a whole bunch of different wants as opposed to needs, they want to be on a bus line, but they want to have a quiet street. They want to be in a great school district, but they don't want high real estate taxes. Conflicting wants. Then we need to help work with them through clarifying questions as to which ones trump which. And same on the salary side. Is it more important to reconnect your family together in Tucson or to get the maximum dollars out of your home? And help me understand why one or the other and what direction we need to move here. So what you do through asking clarifying questions and playing back what you've absorbed is to identify motivation, commitment, and flexibility. Somewhere along the line, when you feel comfortable with them, that you've established rapport and ascertained some needs so that they feel like you're on their page and talking about them, then you go for the little small commitment. Maybe at that time, at the open house or on the telephone, you start asking them a little more personal information, maybe the size of their family, how long they've been looking, how they've been looking, and the small commitment can be to meet. Because we go up to the first line in this whole outline. Closing is a process, not a point in time. It's a series of appointments. So you need to get the first appointment where you have a one-on-one situation or one-on-family situation with them. And even if it's a virtual because they're out of town REO company or out of town seller or whatever, just a time to discuss whatever it is you want to discuss that's going to lead to a commission. Then and only then will we qualify. We have been taught for 30 years that you don't want to work with anybody, waste your time until you've qualified them. I totally disagree. We need to, why would anybody in this age of transparency, why would you give your credit card information, bank account information to Expedia.com before you'd already determined what they have for you, i.e. do they have a hotel that you want? Do they have an air schedule that you want, an airplane schedule that you want? And after you commit and buy, then you give them your credit information. Why do we think that these same people are going to feel differently towards us? Do we have to find out if they've been to a banker and all this stuff before we get the commitment? Yes, you're going to waste your time with a few of them, but you're going to grab far more because you're trusting them, and therefore they are more likely to trust you. And the whole Emily Matthews program, the Internet Leads Incubation Management, we've had great success. And one reason for it is, in addition to the fine people that are doing it both on the Emily side and the agents that are dealing with the appointments, is this is what we're doing. We went through this whole process, and we're not asking for financial information until we meet them, until we had a small commitment from them to perhaps work together. And what we found is that over 80% of them are qualified. So we wasted our time with 20% of them, but we've gathered 10 times as many people to work with. And qualifying to me is not just income and debt structure. It's also their desire, their needs, their realism, their willingness to compromise, their willingness to move forward, their willingness to reduce drama. Then and only then do we get to this point do we actually now start selling ourselves, and only if necessary. I look at the our toolkit CMA, our marketing brochure, our website, our text message, whatever you want to take that we have as a tool, is nothing more than a toolbox. A toolbox that hopefully when we go to make the repair of the person, I get them to commit to us, maybe all we need is one tool, one little small screwdriver. Maybe we need a big hammer because that's the way these people are. But unless they want to be sold and they're not convinced of us versus the competition or us versus doing something themselves, if it's both as a seller or wandering around loose as a buyer, we need to shut up, and even though we spent hours perhaps preparing this presentation, if it's irrelevant to the consumer, then we have to just keep it in the bag and not use it. If we have an unrealistic client, which many are, then we do need the tools here to help them understand why the property is worth $290, not $390, or why, from the buyer's point of view, this property is priced right at $290, and therefore they should not be offering $235. So if you walk through all these things here, we're talking about transparency, and in the selling part of support tools, I'm a huge believer in being completely transparent with the buyer and or seller as to market conditions. Sharing with them your market analysis, your CMA, sharing with them the actual comps, sharing with them all the data you're looking at. So it's not just your conclusion, it's the actual data. Most of them won't really look at it if you offer it to them, but I would offer it to them. Once you get through the selling portion, of course, that's when you ask for the major commitment. Exclusivity for the work as a buyer broker. Commitment to go to a lender or to a credit cleanup person at that stage. Permission to work with the bank on the short sale. Permission to hire someone to stage the home. All the things that you now need to do, written commitment with each other. Of course, this is another series of appointments, processes, commitments as you move towards a closing. Once you get there, now we get to the really critical part, which is causing decisions. And that's all about overcoming objections. The main ones are sleep, think, pray, higher authority, no calendar, minutia, fear, hidden personal objections. All the things with the one question we got today, which is on drama, often come out in this form. So if somebody is not convinced of something, or they're worried about being decisive, or they have a hidden agenda, i.e., how many times have we found out that we didn't get the full picture of someone's financial situation, or their personal situation, or their career situation, they're likely to do these what are called roadblocks. Okay, well, that's great, and I really feel good about this, feel good about you, but I never make a major decision without sleeping on it because 23 years ago my uncle did, and blah, blah, blah. Or I'm going to pray about it, or I need to think about it. Or they use the higher authority, which is usually the spouse, which is like, well, this all sounds good to me, so as soon as I talk to blah, blah, I'll get back to you. And of course, as a little side note here, as a segue, we always want, and when we're in decision-making mode, we want to have all decision makers present. Little second side note, if you're dealing with a client who is separating from the other client, divorce, then you don't want to be just the advocate of one party, because I'll guarantee you that the other party is not going to want you because you're the advocate of their adversary. Their enemy's friend is their enemy. All right. No calendar. I'll get back to you. They might hit you on some minutia. Well, I'm still waiting for the power company heating costs for last winter just to confirm. Which, what does that really? What do you need that for? You can have that as a contingency offer. And then the hidden personal, which we talked about so often. What the surface objection has nothing to do with the reality underneath. And hopefully, if you've done all these things in the process, establish reports, needs, so on and so forth, you can get down to asking the open-ended question at this point, which is, I'm confused. This is the home that you've described, and it appears that we might be able to get it for the price that you're comfortable with, and you've been pre-qualified, and your lease is up, but there's something holding you back. So I hope you trust me to the extent that maybe we can talk about it now. So could you share with me what it is? Same type of question if they don't sign a listing. Same kind of question if they don't write the offer in the first place. So to me at least, the way to counter these obtuse, vague objections, delays, stalls, roadblocks is to ask open-ended questions, find out the real meaning of what it is that they're holding up. And with that, Carrie tells me we have another question.
What is the best way to pull out hidden objection?
What is the best way to pull out hidden objections? Candor. And the little question I just gave before is one of spelling out the reality. Like you re-emphasize you go back up to in the process 3, 4, 5. Clarifying questions, playback, small commitment. It's going back and reiterating how they got to the point they were at. If they put the property in the market, you got a good offer and they're not taking it. If they agreed they want to buy a house for $290,000 in Lincolnwood and you found one that meets all their needs and they're not writing, then candor is Carrie and Bill, we've been working together now for a few weeks, and I just want to make sure I understand that this is what you have been looking for, which is a 3-bedroom tri-level in Lincolnwood for under $300,000 with a 2.5-car garage and 225 blah blah blah, and that this is the neighborhood, this is the school system, and so on, and you're hesitating. So I have to believe that there's something happening that I'm not aware of, and that's okay. But I really want to serve your needs. So would you feel comfortable at least sharing with me to see if we can work through it together? Personal appeal. That's my style. If it doesn't make common sense, then you're missing something, or they're not telling you something. So seek common sense. And then as they share it, you go back to the critical personal tools of listening skills and subordination of self. And when they tell you what it is, you may want to shoot them because they should have told you that months ago, but at least you know what it is now. Does that help? Any other suggestions? All right. So, we've gotten through. Oh, another question. Oh, yes, that helps. That's not a question. All right, we've gotten through the objections, the roadblocks. We're still not home free by any stretch. Now, how do we get them to sign the piece of paper? We all have our little techniques. Most of us simply lay down the piece of paper facing their direction with a pen in front of it and talk until they pick up the pen and then shut up. Most won't read it. Some will. Doesn't matter. And if there's a long silent pause, I'll repeat what I've said 5 times. Shut up. Don't talk beyond the close. So often when there's a pause, when there's a silence, when there's hesitation, we blink and then we start blah, 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 blah. And often what we do is raise another another excuse for delay. So this actually was the first audio tape I heard when I first started real estate in the late 70s. And when they say yes, shut up! All right. After they've inked the transaction, you've negotiated the offer, the counter offer, the whatever, short sale, whatever it is you're negotiating. Then it's, oh, you're home free. Well, you are if up to this point it has been difficult. So as I said on the onset, if the first part up to ink has been difficult, then you probably dealt with an analytical type person who has already answered all their own questions and will not have remorse. If on the other hand you have an impulsive person, such as myself, who easily nods their head yes, and then they go, well, wait a minute, I guess I didn't understand yes. And now you're going to have to address remorse. Like everything else, I really urge everybody to proactively, because you're not telegraphing objections, you just stating in a nice companionship type way, address the fact that most people, after they make a major decision, are going to feel one of two things: either remorse or fear, or happiness and relief. So if you feel remorse or fear, let me know so we can talk about it. Because then when you do deal with that, what do? You do the same exact thing as when they have the hidden objection for not inking the deal. The same thing when they don't want to start something. It makes sense to do something and they're not doing it. You go back and you rehash everything that has led them and you to the point you're at right now. And then, of course, ask, has anything changed? Usually what it is, it's the insecurity on their part of, did they make the right decision? Should they have held out for more money for their house? Should they have offered a lower price? Is there going to be another house coming up around the corner tomorrow? Interest rate's going to drop in a month. Well, the unknowns. That usually is the worst thing. Once in a while, it's after this happens that they, believe it or not, it's probably about 1 out of 20, which is a pretty high percentage. One of the parties in the transaction reveals something to the other one about how they feel. It goes, "Oh, you're telling me that now?" And that's a true problem. But most of them are just walking your way through it all. So managing the details. We all have our own styles. Some of us are control freaks and minutia. Others are world-class delegators. I'm one of those. As long as somebody is managing the details who has the ability to manage them and keep you informed. The more that you allow others, the lender, the home inspector, the attorney, the escrow agent, the broker, the transaction coordinator, to do the work, the more time you're going to have to get other buyers and sellers. So my advice for everybody is to attempt not to be a perfectionist. Get over that, accept good enough is okay, and let somebody else manage the details. And one thing I have found in all these years, and counted up the other day, we probably had over 250,000 transactions since we started the company. If the paperwork is perfect and either the buyer or seller doesn't want to go through with it, it won't happen. If the perfect paperwork is a complete mess and the buyer and seller want to go through with it, it will happen. Paperwork is 99.9% of the time secondary to the feelings and the desires of the buyer and the seller. Yes, we have to do correct paperwork. I'm not saying to take shortcuts, blah, blah, blah. But let somebody else manage those details while you go out and help other people make commitments. The buyer sell, they'll use their commission. All right, so you're going to certainly have obstacles along the way. I'll say certainly, often. Be the inspection, be it the bulky lender, be it you can't hear back from the REO company, whatever it is. The more you can prepare the other party for those obstacles before they occur, the better off you are. Instead of playing ostrich and hiding in the sand and hoping that nothing will show up in the inspection, or hoping that it'll be smooth sailing with the REO company or whatever, I would, after the inking, after the acceptance, after the discussion of remorse, then I would talk to them about that we still have many obstacles here. We don't know if we're going to get them all or any of them, but there's a lot of potential hazards in this course. You know, there's still unexploded bombs in the killing field. So we need to work with them and be flexible. And then by maximizing the fact that these could occur, when they do occur, they don't seem quite as big. And the last but not least is collecting the commission. And let me just say about commission through the whole thing. We as agents have 17 different opportunities to reduce our pay throughout a transaction. It starts with taking the listing. It starts with showing properties that have a very small buyer side commission. It starts with working with people you know are going to have to chip in something or other along the way, and it ends at the closing table. So the more you can say no, the more you can use these techniques to appeal to the higher authority, my broker won't let me do that, whatever, the more likely you are to maximize your commission. Even as we look through our top 121 agents from last year, which we ranked by closed commission dollars, it's amazing the difference in total sales prices of people that had equal commission dollars. Biggest sum, want to be liked, or rationalize, well, the deal wouldn't have gone together if I hadn't thrown in $500, which I don't think is ever the case. It's amazing to see how some people throw in their commission all the time. Who knows what's it? To be liked out of guilt because we're too lazy to argue through or debate through whatever it is that the $500 is all about. I'm just urging everybody to hold as firm as you can hold, and I've yet to see a transaction fail because the agent failed to reduce the commission. I've yet to see one, and that's out of 250,000 commissions. All right, questions? All right, we have 7 minutes left and no questions. So, kind of like the auction, going once, going twice, sold, no questions. It's been a pleasure being with you all, and I hope it stirred enough interest to attend several of these webinars as we do them throughout the year. And we're looking for many points of light, as I said early on, to give the seminars, because we all have a lot of information to impart with everybody. Maybe I can wrap it up by saying that we're just so excited with the expansion of Century 21 Affiliated in 2011, 2012, 2013. And now all the economic science yesterday, the Dow Jones recovered every single nickel of it lost from 2007 on. It's the highest it's been since October 2007. The housing market's expanding. Home appreciation nationwide is up 9.6%. My personal prediction, as most of you know, is that prices will appreciate 10% in 2013 throughout affiliated land. Some will be 2%, some will be 20%, but overall about 10%. Our biggest problem out there is sellers that are still sitting on their hands because they cannot get their 2006 price yet, and they don't have to sell, or they can't sell because if they do, they have no equity left to buy something else. So we have to work with those people and get them into the marketplace, because the only thing that can slow down the real estate market in 2013 is we have nothing to show our buyers. And it's the responsibility of all of us to provide that inventory. So we're back to the skill set that we needed 15, 10 years ago. Kind of fun. Everybody have a great day, a great week. Here in the Midwest, I predicted that it was not the last great snow. We're going to have 2 more. So good luck with shoveling and driving through it all. Have a good week.